Thanks, David, for sharing your thoughts with us there. Can you outline how important it is from a financial point of view and indeed from a point of view of funding the IRFU that crowds return in significant numbers to matches at the Aviva Stadium? I mean, it's all very well having a trial event for 3,000 and 5,000 people, but that's not going to pay, the wages of everybody going forward.
No, it doesn't, Michael. It's really important, and that's it's obvious that we need to get crowds back in. And in saying that, I can't sort of go through this without thanking Sport Island and the government for their support, because they have been brilliant. They've been fantastic in supporting sport and supporting the IRFU, and they've worked with us unbelievably closely and effectively during this time, and we will be able to have crowds back in during these July matches. It's a matter of just working out what the actual numbers will be, and then hopefully that gives us the ability to get hopefully close to full houses by the time the November internationals roll around. But not only for ourselves, for the provinces. I mean, the provinces desperately need to have crowds back in. It's their lifeblood of their finances, and again, the sooner that we can fill the stadia with people, it's going to go a long way to filling the financial hole. I mean, it's been well publicised, the losses. We had losses last year of about 35 million euros. We're on course this year to lose another 30 million. They're unbelievably significant sums of money. And as much as starting the game back up with crowds will help us, this is a long-term issue. This is something that's going to take years for us to be able to claw back. And we hopefully have ourselves in a position now where we've streamlined ourselves to be able to deal with that as best we can.
And in terms of the development of the senior team going forward towards the Rugby World Cup in 2023 in France, how much of a missed opportunity has there been? You touched on it, no tour last year and a sort of home tour this year against Japan and the USA, in terms of stunting the growth of the next generation of players coming through, so they get adequate game time ahead of the competition, which is only 2 years away.
Yeah, I don't think you can deny that hurts. As I alluded to, touring is a really important part of team development, and that hurts us missing those tours. But look, it's the same for everyone else around the world. There's everyone's been hit by the same restrictions. I suppose it then depends on how well internally your system is working to be able to try and balance out some of the challenges that have been COVID's placed on us. We'd be confident that our system has continued to work hard on developing our younger players as best we can. We certainly get good flow through of our players into our system, and they've been exposed this year as much as possible to the highest levels of the game that they can be. But there's no denying that to play Test rugby, you've got to play and you've got to play and you've got to play, because it's a different level of the game, and you only get better at that level of the game through experience. So we have to make sure that we maximise these couple of games we've got in July, and we'll be looking to do that again in the November period as well.
Thank you.
Hi David, Ashnade here in Virgin Media News. You mentioned there about the player contracts and obviously the financial difficulties for the union. In particular, Tyg Furlong, with that 1 year contract, is the union concerned about not being able to hold on to him beyond next year?
Look, it was the players all looked at the negotiating of contracts during this period a bit differently, and Tyg, I suppose, we would have liked to have contracted Tyg for longer than 1 year, but that was his choice to be able to sit back and say, well, maybe the landscape will have changed in 12 months, and it'll be different, and that's his prerogative to do that. And we're obviously happy that he's just staying on, and hopefully when we go back to the negotiating table with he and other players, we'll be able to convince them that staying in Ireland is the best thing for their rugby. But that's a choice that they'll all have to make, and all we can do is operate within the financial boundaries and capacity that we have. And I suppose what we've always tried to do in the last 5 or 6 years is to make sure that we've continued to develop players so that we're hopefully not overly dependent on any one particular player as much as they're all important to us. But I suppose when you go back a few years and you look when Mike Ross was our starting tight head, who would have thought we would have had 2 tight heads going away on a Lions tour? So, player development is unbelievably important to us, and it underpins a lot of what we do. But, we're hopeful. I know the players appreciate what Irish rugby does for them, but at the end of the day, it's a decision, an individual decision that they all have to make as to where they want to play.
And final one for me, just obviously on the women's 15s game, a lot of debate about what should happen next in terms of professionalism, semi-pro. What needs to happen next, David, to close the gap to England and France in their setups?
Well, I think we've got to just keep working away at developing the infrastructure of what we're doing here in Ireland. That's certainly the key to it. It's about being able to broaden the base. We're working hard, as I alluded to, on developing the competition structures and the pathway model for young women to be able to come through. We've already started working on broadening the roles of our elite development pathway coaches, where their roles are broadened to take more responsibility over the coming time to focus on the development of young female players. And we've got some other things in mind around competition structure and how we're going to build that base to be able to bring more girls through. So that is a key, because if the game wants to keep developing at the top end and World Rugby wants to keep, I suppose, growing the exposure at the elite end, we have to have the capacity to be able to meet those commitments. And to do that, we've got to be able to keep bringing through a volume of players and a quality of those players as well to be able to achieve that. So it's a long-term thing that we've got to be working on. There's no real short-term fix to it. So it's got to be a commitment over a long period of time to be able to build an established pathway that's suitable for the women's game.
Hi, David. Just when you're talking about the autumn internationals, I think England and Scotland and Wales have their fixtures announced. When do you expect an announcement, a confirmation of that? And is there any reason why it's been delayed?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any reason. We just, I don't know whether it's an issue around they're probably waiting for a bit of certainty around crowds, I suggest, and what that means. We can't sell tickets till we know how many we're allowed to sell. So I imagine it's all connected up to that. But as I said earlier, we'd be confident that we're going to have crowds. It's a matter of what the size of those will be come the autumn.
Just when you're looking at the strategic plan from a few years ago, is that something that you reset the goals? I mean, some of them are not achievable now in terms of semi-finals, but for example, the Six Nations, you'd have to win the next 2 to achieve the goals there. Do you speak to Andy Farrell and reset your goals midway through?
Yeah, look, we always do. I mean, you're constantly reviewing in this business, and you're reviewing so that you can actually look at how that's going to help you going forward. So we're always doing that on a continuous basis. You're always looking at what you want to achieve. I mean, strategic plans they're great, but you've got to put something down on paper as to what you want to achieve, so that you strive towards it. And sure, like last time we put down, and I see it noted often that we didn't make a semi-final in a World Cup. Fine. That's really disappointing, and we didn't do it. We didn't achieve it. and you accept that, but you have to have something to aim for. You know, when you're an elite sporting team, you've always got to have something. You're trying to win all the time. You know, so whether we're saying we're trying to win a World Cup or make a semi-final or win the Six Nations, we're always setting out to do that. That's always the goal, and we're always trying to do the best we can in any competitive environment. So that's always our ambition to do that. So and we'll continue to strive to win everything we enter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey David, how's it going? Just a quick one. You had mentioned something about the contracts there and the kind of negotiations that were going on, and you said that you got everyone that you had set out to get. I was wondering, in terms of CJ Stander, were you and the union very happy with the offer that was put to him before he made his big decision?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'd never divulge private conversations, but I can tell you that after we delivered an offer to CJ and he came back and spoke with me, he was really appreciative of the offer that he was given, and conveyed that to me personally. So it certainly had nothing to do with the financial elements of the offer to CJ. He's a valuable. Has been a valuable player for Irish rugby now for a long time, and we would have loved to have seen him play on. But he made a personal decision around what was important to him, and we respect that. And as I said before, all the players make personal decisions. They have different things that motivate them and drive them and form the basis of their decisions. Money is one of them, but it's not the only thing that they weigh up when they make their decisions. So no, look, we're really disappointed that CJ won't be with us, but you know, he's been an unbelievable player for Ireland and for Munster now over many years, and you know, we obviously wish him the best going forward.
And just a final one for me was just other big players that mean a lot to provinces and have done well from over the years. I'm thinking of the likes of James Cronin and Quinn Rue, like they've headed off, maybe not being happy with the offers that they've got. You know, was there any scope to kind of keep those lads there? Is it disappointing to kind of lose out on lads like that?
Yeah, well, you know, at the same time, you know, I've just rugby is a business too, and you get to a point where you've got to look at affordability. You've got to look at sometimes you get to a point where you might have talent coming through, and it's a decision that has to be made around cost benefit, and that's the brutal truth of professional sport sometimes. And you've got to say, well, okay, we can't afford to pay that amount of money for a particular player. We have X, Y, or Z coming through underneath that. They're going to be worth more over time. They've got longevity in the position, and we have to keep that churn in that particular position going. And they're just decisions that have to be made at times, and it's unfortunate because you're dealing obviously with people, but at the same time, it is a business, and you have to make business decisions as well as trying to look after them as people. And that's just the way that professional sport works, unfortunately.